Today we are conducting a chi-square analysis. My name is Darlene Whitlock and I am doing this for the GRC 605 Business Research Methodology and Quantitative Stats from California Intercontinental University. Our agenda today will show that we will review some definitions, take a look at GRC 605's data set, run our chi-square test, talk about our takeaways, and then have time for any questions. Definitions. What you need to understand when we're looking at this is that there is a hypothesis that we are going to be considering for each one of these tests. A hypothesis is a theory or idea that predicts a certain outcome. This can be tested to prove its truth or disprove its truth based on information gathered to show a relationship between variables. A hypothesis is stated by using a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. The null hypothesis states that there is no relationship between the variables being considered. The alternative hypothesis is saying that there is a direct relationship between the variables being considered. We will be using GRC 605's data set. This data set was generated on SurveyMonkey through a sample of people from the Midwest United States. The survey data contains quite a few variables: income, debt, savings, stocks, how much cash they have under wallet, the number of car payments they have under NUM cars. NUM credit cards is the number of credit cards maintained by the participant. NUM defaults is the number of defaults incurred. And like comfort is the comfort level on a Likert scale of the participants in the survey. You must note that all of this information was self-reported by each of the participants. We will be running chi-square test. There are 3 tests that we have run. The first one is the number of cars and the number of defaults. The second test is like comfort and NUM defaults. And the third one is the number of cars and like comfort. Our first hypothesis test, number of cars and number of defaults, shows that when we conducted our correlational test, there is no relationship between NUM cars and NUM defaults is our null hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis states that there is a relationship between the number of cars and the number of defaults. The chi-square statistic and its p-value were calculated using PSPP, assuming an alpha of 0.05. No significant relationship emerged. You can see here the statistical data that was drawn from that. Chi-square says that 6 n equals 150, and overall that equals 6.68 with a p-value of 0.351. Our second hypothesis test was between like comfort and number defaults. The following correlational test was conducted. The null hypothesis states there is no relationship between like comfort and number of defaults. The alternative hypothesis states that there is a relationship between like comfort and number of defaults. The chi-square statistic and its p-value were calculated using PSPP, assuming alpha equals 0.05. No significant relationship emerged. And here is the data that we received. Chi-square, the 6 n equals 150, which equals the value of 6.68. Our p-value is 0.351. Our third hypothesis test was between the number of cars and the like comfort. The following correlational test was conducted. Our null hypothesis tests that there is no relationship between number of cars and like comfort. Our alternative hypothesis states that there is a relationship between the number of cars and like comfort. The chi-square statistic and its p-value were calculated using PSPP, assuming an alpha of 0.05. A relationship emerged showing the chi-value as a 9 with the number of participants, 150, which equals a value of 450. The p-value is 0.00, and if we have a significant result, then we need to run what's known as Cramer's V Kramer's V is an absolute 1. Kramer's V indicates a very strong relationship between the number of cars and the light comfort. Our takeaways for this video is that PSPP easily computes the chi-square test. If the test requires the null hypothesis to be rejected, then the Kramer's V test must also be conducted. Kramer's test is used to determine the strength of the relationship between variables. Any questions, please feel free to leave a post.